Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video, tasting some insanely expensive teas. I'm approaching this session with a mix of excitement and trepidation because the teas I have in front of me are by far some of the most expensive teas that I have ever tried. They represent probably in the top 0.0001% of most expensive teas in the world. They are truly up there in the rarefied atmosphere of ridiculous, mark under ridiculous pricing. So I'm excited to taste them, obviously, because I expect them to be super high quality teas. But at the same time, I am approaching this session with a little bit of trepidation because I have a very strong suspicion, let's call it a certainty, that the teas in front of me will never live up to the price tag. I'll talk about the price tag in a little bit. Let's put it this way. If these teas even come close to the price tag, then they would have to be the best teas that I have ever tasted. I've been involved in tea for 20 years. We've been curating teas for 15 years. We source the absolute pinnacle teas, the best teas that we can find absolutely every season. And so I am prepared to spend a lot of money on teas because I love them and I think the experience is well worthwhile. But in the case of these kinds of teas, I think that this is a worrying trend that has been happening for many years that is creating potentially a bubble in the market where the price of the tea just is so far removed from the experience in the cup. So the price of tea, we've done a video about this before, but it's worth just sort of stressing that the price of tea is dependent on many factors. It's dependent on the quality of the terroir, the location, the very specific location. It's dependent on the age of the tea trees, the processing, the amount of hand processing that's gone on in the making of the tea, the season that it was picked, the age of the tea itself potentially. There are many different factors, that will affect the price point of a tea. Plus, there is simply supply and demand, how rare a tea is, and the trends in tea. So, what people are more interested in at any particular time. So all of these factors come into play to define the price point. Obviously, the seller, him or herself, gets to choose the price point depending upon their overheads and their expense and the packaging, and all those factors come into play, just like any other business. However, the price tag must match the experience in the cup. So you need to be able to take away all of the other factors, the cachet, the status, the name of the tea, all of those things, and just focus on the experience in the cup and ask yourself a question: was that experience worth the price? Now, I think for the majority of teas out there, tea is remarkably priced. It's very affordable considering the joy that it gives you when you get into true tea. But in the case of these two teas here, I think that we have gone too far. So let's talk about these teas. I have in front of me Jinjin, the most expensive black tea in the world. I'm going to taste this tea on Instagram after this one because I've done so many videos about Jinjin on YouTube. You can go check those out. I'll stick links in the description below. If you want to see me tasting this tea, then I'll be tasting this afterwards. It's going to be a special day for me here, and we'll be tasting that and putting that on Instagram. But today on YouTube, I want to be focusing on this tea here. This is Keng Rogue. So Rogue is Yencha rock oolong. If you don't know what a rock oolong is, I'll put a link in the description below. Very expensive premium oolong teas from Fujian province, from Wuyi area. And this is from Keng, which is a very specific area, very well known for their Rogue teas. And the price point on this is retail 96,000 RMB per gin. So 96,000 RMB per half kilo. That equates to around 26 or so $1,000 per kilo. So you're looking at about 2,600 for 100 grams. You're looking at about 260 for 10 grams. So you're looking at about 26 US dollars per single gram of this tea. I'm not quite sure how much is in here. In fact, let's open it up and find out. This is a 2019 tea. So we get sent all sorts of teas. Obviously, in the selecting of our teas, we find teas from all over the place, and we get sent these kinds of super rare teas as well. And, you know, so I thought I would taste it in front of you and let's see what it's like. And I've got another pot of this and another pot of this. So we're going to be doing a giveaway. So stay tuned and one of you will get a lucky chance to win some of this tea. So let's see how much we've got in here. We've got, that's 3 grams. So you've got about, oops, that's a lot of very expensive tea that I'm pouring all over the place. That's an 8 gram portion, right? So in this scoop is 8 grams. Let's round it down to 25 US dollars per gram. So here is $200 worth of tea in front of you here. And that's conservative, right? So Keng Rogueway, why is it so expensive? Keng is a very particular area where Rogueway is famed, and this is top. Obviously, there's a fair amount of Keng Rogueway around because it's got such a very famous name. In fact, how much of the Keng Rogueway that you see on the market actually comes from Keng is another one of those very pertinent points whenever we're talking about tea. But there's a fair amount of it around, and this is the absolute top area. So Keng Rogueway, I've got 8 grams here. Shall I do the whole thing? You know what? If you're gonna do it, isn't it? So this is a $200 session here that we're doing. I've got my Blue Guy 1. I'm gonna heat this up. Now, the question, can this ever be even close to being worth that kind of price? As I said, if it is, then this is gonna be a tea which is going to redefine all my expectations of rock oolong. And I very much doubt that that's gonna be the case. But you live in hope, right? Okay, so let's take a look at those leaves. They are beautiful, right? The smell coming off here is immaculate. It's amazing. Let's smell. Okay, so burnt caramel, a little bit of red currant. The charcoal has had a chance to die down. So this is 2019. I'm speaking to you from July 2020. It's very important that you do not purchase wee rock oolongs that are sort of under 6 months old, because they'll have so much of that charcoal note. There is a definite bright appley note happening. It's a lovely smelling tea. If you had blind tasted me with this sample, I would definitely be excited to try it. And that's why we tend to do blind tastings whenever we taste samples. You know, we don't want the price to influence our choices, because as I said, for me, the price needs to be reflective of experience. The experience is what counts. Everything else can be put to the side. Everything else is storytelling. Okay, here we go. I mean, it's lovely. It has almost. It has an almost like stewed meat kind of note to it, and it sounds horrible, but like a very aromatic wild venison stew sort of earthiness and savouriness. And then you've got cherries, apple, a particular perfume like longan. I mean, it will have been roasted over longan wood charcoal, but there's a very distinct, fruity, bright longan flesh and cherry flesh, stone fruit aromatic coming through. The charcoal is lovely. It's a body which is giving it depth and intensity, but is not overtaking those very, very clear aromatics that come from terroir. And of course, it has a rocky note to it as well. Shall I taste the rinse? This is $200 worth of tea, so I should taste the rinse. Nice. Longan. Not quite as sweet as lychee, a little bit more sour. Longan fruit is what I would say is the fruit there. Let me make sure that the temperature is up here. I need to do everything right here. And as I said, after this session, I'm gonna taste this Jinjunmei. But as you can probably tell from my expression, you know, it's a great tea. Judging by the smell, it's a very, very good tea. But you know, when you compare this to say undercover DHP is a Zhengyan Dahong Power Blend that we have sourced from a very, very immaculate producer with a long family history in having their Zhengyan fields in Wuyi and making Wuyi Yanchas. And that comes to around 90 cents a gram, right? So the difference between 90 cents a gram retail and $26 a gram, it's madness. It's nearly 30 times the price. And I personally would very much say that I prefer the aroma of Undercover DHP to this one. So let's see how it tastes. And we will give it a fair judgment. It always sort of fills me with a bit of excitement, amusement, and a little bit of an eye roll when I get sent samples like this, and I am told by my sourcing assistant that this is way above our price points. And I'm like, well, how much is it? And they say, okay, this one is X. Then I'm always like a little bit like, okay, fine. Let me give it a taste. Let's see. It's worth giving a taste. Most of the time we taste blind to price, but when it is so insane like this, it sort of is flagged to me. Right, here we go. Color of the liquor, beautiful amber. Orange. Cheers, everybody. Nulan Keng Rogui, top of the pile. Nulan Keng Rogui. Here we go. Right. Texture is immediate. Lots of rockiness. Lots of physicality, pulling and movement, slight sort of prickly sensation on the tongue. Would I say that it's particularly pleasant? I mean, I like it because it has action from the get-go. It has action the moment you put it in your mouth. It has a lot of character. But the sensation itself is not a sensation necessary of luxury. And I would say that if you gave this to somebody who doesn't really drink a lot of yanchas, they would probably go, ooh, it's a little bit prickly on my tongue. Very, very, very clear, rocky nature. Slight bitterness on the back palate of my mouth. Texture is not particularly thick. I would say it's medium bodied. Now let's focus on the taste. I'm getting a bitterness on the sides of my tongue, which I'm not particularly enjoying. And that's sort of masking some of the more pleasant aromatics in the tea. And I can sort of see, I can taste that there's a lot of depth, which will hopefully express itself more in the next few rounds, because it's rarely the best infusion, the first infusion of a yencha. Nothing particularly amazing though. I am getting some stone fruit. We're more moving into apricots. There's some guava in there. There's a little bit of red currant. You know how red currant can have that sour character to it? Well, this has that, and it's also got, as I said, that bitterness that normally comes from, say, biting on a pip, you know, or a seed in a fruit. Is sort of it's fast. It's fast on, fast off. So it comes, you get this bitterness and it goes. So it's nothing particularly disturbing or lingering, but it certainly isn't something that I would say is a positive note in the tea. I am, at first glance, surprised by how underwhelmed I am by this tea. I was at least expecting it to be an amazing session, if not worth the price. But definitely, if I had tasted this blind, I would not pick this out as a lineup for something for May Leaf tea. What is that? There's a sort of very particular unripe fruit, sour and bitter note coming through. And that unripe fruit is, in a way, gives it a certain character, but it's not, it tastes unripe. Okay, we're gonna do second infusion here. And we're going to see if there's a marked change. Nice sweetness is now developing in my mouth. Yeah, nice lingering cherry sweetness is developing in my mouth. That's something that I am definitely enjoying. Antique woodiness that is sort of standard yencha material. Really nothing to write home about. Certainly would not make, according to that first tasting, the shortlist on May Leaf, on a May Leaf selection tasting. Deep, dark, amber color. Okay. Elephant gets a couple of dollars worth of drips. And here we go. Infusion number 2. Cheers, everybody. Thickened up slightly. Definitely thicker. Still not, I would not call it thick. I would say it's medium thick. Bitterness is attenuated, reduced, still there a little bit, just sort of poking its head above the wall. So it's still noticeable, but is definitely reduced. I'm getting a dryness in the mouth. Look, there's lots of rocky texture here. There's a lot of physicality. There's a lot of dynamic shift happening. I'm getting dryness on the front of my tongue. I'm getting bitterness on the back top palate. I'm getting some sourness and some juiciness develop. So it's a very physical tea, as you'd expect from a high quality terroir, rogue, yencha, but the flavor of it is definitely falling short of the mark. Really, I mean, you know, I'm not inspired with a lot of different tasting notes that's hitting me. I'm getting woods, I'm getting berries like red currants, but you know, as I said, like underripe, like you were picking them and you put one in your mouth and you're like, oh no, that still needs some time to mature. But it's got that tanginess, that sort of that fruity, acidic tanginess that is perhaps something that people would like. I don't particularly like an overly sour tea. especially this kind of sourness. So you've got like sourness that comes from a TEAWARE sourness from the processing, which is sort of a sour apple candy note where it somehow works with the freshness of the tea. But when the sourness is coming from this sort of deep inner leaf material, which is just causing a sort of soured, unripe fruit taste, it's a bit disturbing. And bizarrely enough, this infusion, even though the texture is a bit better, is quite weak, quite surprisingly weak. I'm gonna hit, this was hit with 100-degree water, and you saw how long I brewed it for, and you can see here, I'm not skimping on leaves here, right? Again, worth noting, about $200 US, this session retail, right? And you may say, well, that's just madness, it's just cuckoo land, no one's paying for this kind of prices for tea. You would be wrong. And this is the point that I'm trying to make here a little bit, is that there's one thing, a tea not being worth the price, we've all experienced that before, but when people are paying this crazy money because they've got crazy amounts of money and they want the status of the tea, well, I mean, you know, it just beggars belief. You know, why are they doing that? Because clearly, as I think is pretty clear here, the experience of this tea is just, I mean, it's not even in the same universe, right? The experience of this tea compares to the price point, let alone the same ballpark. It's just totally, just total disconnect between price and experience. And I've noticed this with these really high ticket teas that essentially people are buying them because they can afford the status symbol of having a Nyulankang Rogwe. Now, okay, worth me noting, I've tasted other Nyulankang Rogwes that are cheaper than this and a lot better than this. I'm not saying that, you know, Nyulankang Rogwes should be avoided at all costs. No, of course not. You know, there are going to be some great Nyulankang Rogwes out there. But as I said, this is top of the pile there, supposedly, and it's giving me a very underwhelming experience for a ridiculous price tag. And there are people paying this price. And so the worry is that when you have such a disconnect between the value of the experience and the value of the actual cost, that's when bubbles start to get created, where the prices just become so inflated because people are prepared to spend the money. Especially in China, there are Chinese people who are very rich. They're just, all that they're looking at is, I want to get the best Rogwe out there. Where is that from? That's Nyulankang. Okay, what's the most expensive Nyulankang Rogwe out there? I need to get that, put that in my collection so that I've got that for my own sort of sense of self-value, or so that I can show off to friends, or I can give it as a gift. But ultimately, it has to be about experience. Now, of course, experience is personal. Some people might enjoy this tea more than I do. There's going to be fluctuations in what people consider to be a high quality experience. But as I said, we're not even in the same universe here, right? So even if you think this experience is a lot better than mine, it's still, in my opinion, not going to be worth the price. Third infusion, a lot lighter, the liquor. Let's see. Now this has moved a little bit more into a mangosteen finish, so sweet mangosteen and cherry finish. It's got similar notes to a Chilan, which is a very, very, very affordable yencha. Our Summer Haze, for example. Summer Haze, I, again, you give me the choice of drinking Summer Haze versus this. Price points are worlds apart, and I would every time pick Summer Haze. Wow, fallen off the cliff. Excuse the pun, because it's a cliff oolong. Fallen off the cliff. This tea has lost it on the third infusion. just dropped. Volume is down. I'm gonna try and give it an extra bit of an infusion time, because this tastes to me like the 8th infusion. Now, yenchas are not known to last, an extreme amount of infusions. They're not like, cooked pu'ers, but still, you would expect the 3rd infusion of any high quality yencha to be very rich, still in its sort of peak phase of the session. Just very, very slaty, tasting a lot of calcium. It's dry. Again, that bitterness is still there. Top of the palate. That is not going away. Giving me a heating sensation. Okay, that's a little bit darker. Let's give this a taste. But I'm actually shocked. I did fully expect that I was going to end this video by saying that this is definitely not worth the price, but the level of distance between the value of this experience and the value of the actual price point is, it's just beyond words. Nope, that's gone. That's dropped off the cliff. I would need to probably, infuse this. I will do it one more infusion for like a couple of minutes just to try to get something out of this. But wow. So this is a perfect example of the sort of meddling that is going on in tea pricing, where you have a product which is so dependent on this very specific single origin area that has a reputation for making the best rogues. And simply on that reputation, the sellers are selling, and they are selling, this tea to very rich people who can afford this kind of tea without really considering the fact that there is a wealth of far superior yencha experiences than this out there at an absolute fraction, a snip of the price point, like 30 times, if not more, 40 times less expensive than this, and a higher quality experience. Okay, well, I'm going to give it one last taste. But this worries me. You see, when I speak to suppliers and they're saying, oh, but this is a New Lan Kang Rogueway, and the price point the other sellers are selling it at is this price point, and they're selling it, you should sell it too. I'm thinking, all this does is encourage the criticism of the specialist tea market. It encourages people to say, wow, that's ridiculous. This is, you're so far away from reality when you're pricing these teas. And as I said, in my opinion, I think that tea in general, specialty tea, is remarkably well priced. You're looking at, for the most expensive teas, a session costing you, say, $4, $5, $6 for like top end, like the top 3% of teas out there, costing you $4, $5 a session. So the price of I don't know, a quarter of a bottle of wine at a restaurant, or even less than that, and you're getting an amazing experience that can last for over an hour, if not longer. So I think that the price point of tea is remarkable. It's very, very affordable. But when teas like this are on the market, I think it gives specialty tea a bad name, and I don't like it at all. And I would encourage all of you out there that are tempted to purchase these very, very high ticket teas to tread with caution. I'm not saying don't do it, but just tread with caution, and always remember that the experience is everything. The experience strips away all of the storytelling. Does the experience live up to the price point? Cheers. This is still third infusion. Look at that. Throwing away. It is bitter. It's bitter. it's now just gone bitter. Again, I've brewed that, I don't know, but it's definitely over a minute, and it's looking very, very light. Fourth infusion, like bitter water. Really, really, really bad. Just bad. It's sort of, it makes me angry, right? That people are selling tea of this quality, of this low quality, scratchy on my throat, bitter. Fourth infusion, it's third infusion, it fell off a cliff. First infusion was sort of vaguely fruity, but mostly sour and pithy bitterness. Second infusion was still bitter, still sour, not much going on, but that was the best. And then it just fell off a cliff. Really, really bad. The best was the aroma, which has now turned into a sort of very vaguely pleasant cherry and rock aroma. But, you know, $200, $20, $10? No, I wouldn't even pay $10 for a session of this, and this costs $200 for a session. Well, very disappointed with this tea, and worth tasting it in front of you just so that you get to understand that these high ticket teas, you know, don't be afraid about saying it's not worth it when you taste it, okay? Because if it's not, it's not. Right, I'm gonna move on and hopefully have a better experience with this Jinjun Mei, and I'll be tasting that on Instagram. But first of all, well, I don't even know if I want to give this away as a giveaway, but I will. I've got another one of these, so another $200 session out there. If anybody wants to try this experience, I will give it away to someone. Just write in the comments section below. What can you write? Write for me your most underwhelming tea session. So the tea session that you recall that just was the most underwhelming. Let's just share sort of amusing stories of very underwhelming tea experiences. Obviously, Mayleaf is all about celebrating pinnacle tea, but it's worth having a laugh, and we've all had them. Those underwhelming tea experiences, this is definitely one of them. Just write that in the comments section below, and I will pick a winner out, and I will send you this, and I'll send you one of our yenchas so that you can do an A/B comparison and you can see what I mean about the difference. All right, let's do that. So write that in the comment section below, and I'll pick one lucky winner to get this Yunnan Keng Rogue that's worth $200. That's it, tea heads. Check out our other videos, taste our teas wherever you are in the world by browsing mayleaf.com, and come visit us if you're ever in London. Other than that, I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being a part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags and overpriced tea, and keep drinking the good stuff and spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.